Zig Ziglar says, you can have everything in life that you want if you just give enough other people what they want. This is Security Pro Insights, where we share our insights with each other so we all can succeed. Our special guest today is Jessica Clarke. Jessica is a 10-year loss prevention specialist in our industry. Jessica has earned a bachelor's in criminal justice and a master's in psychology, all while raising 3 strong and intelligent children. Jessica is an avid learner and always seeks ways to grow in her career and enhance her everyday life. This is the main reason Jessica has proven successful and is a guest on our show today. Jessica, welcome to the show, and can you start by telling us a little more about yourself?
Thank you so much for having me. This is a great honor. Let's see. Well, I'm married, and as you mentioned, I do have 3 grown children, and I also have a stepdaughter who is 14. In my free time, when I do have it, I enjoy spending time with my family and friends. We like to make sure we stay fit, so we love to go hiking in the back trails, take the dog with us, just enjoy time when the weather permits. Love trying new types of foods. So being in the area that I'm at, there's lots of opportunities to try all different kinds of restaurants and cuisines. I'm very much into photography and painting. Painting is rather new to me, so I'm still learning different mediums, canvas, all that fun stuff. So it's definitely been a challenge for me to learn, but at the same time, very fun. Enjoy traveling whenever I get a chance. Do a lot of mini weekends because I can't always take off for a week or 2 weeks at a time. Love watching movies, and of course, I'm always listening to audiobooks and podcasts.
Can you help us understand the road you traveled to where you're at today?
Yes. Many years ago, I wanted to go back to school and further my education, but while I was doing that, I needed something that was going to pay the bills. I had small children at home. I was going to school, like I mentioned, and I was applying at all these different places, and one of the places I applied at was for a loss prevention manager. I was like, well, my degree is going to be in criminal justice, so why not? So I went and I got the job, and at first it was a little overwhelming because I was in a store by myself, a retail store. So I was trying to learn everything and get the gist of how to bring shoplifters back into my store. But after a while, I realized that it was something that I was very passionate about. I loved not only going after the shoplifters, but I really enjoyed the investigative part. I'm one that will dig and look, and someone tells me, oh no, there's nothing there. I'm going to look even further to see if there's something truly going on internally within the company. So that's what I found out was, even though it was supposed to be a temporary job, it ended up being basically my life career. And here I am, over 10 years later, and I'm still very, very passionate about it. It's almost like I love the chase. There's a challenge there that it's challenging everything in me. It's challenging my brain. It's challenging my knowledge to learn and explore even more and to push myself even further, even 10 years later.
Somewhere in the middle of that journey, though, you went back for a master's degree in psychology. Was that tied to loss prevention, or was there another purpose?
There actually was another purpose. For a while there, I was getting a little burnt out on what I was doing. I was working a lot of hours, and I decided, I decided that I was going to go back to school, and I wanted to get into counseling. So I went back and got my master's in psychology. I was originally going to go back and get my doctorate. I'm about 2 years away from my doctorate at this point. So I went back, got my master's in psychology, and was offered a counseling position with a local facility. And I worked with adults who, range from schizophrenia to suicidal, different, social disorders. And what I realized, though it was interesting work to me, there was so much political red tape that I just felt that it really wasn't for me. It was Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and basically, just I was maintaining these clients because they were adults. It was much harder to change their habits and behaviors. Children, you can change their behaviors, with some work. Adults tend to stay in the same cycle over and over again. So it became, so I really started thinking about it, is this really what I was looking for? Is this a challenge that I really wanted in my life? And during that time, the company I'd previously been with in loss prevention called me trying to get me to come back. They really wanted me back. They really wanted me to take over a new store. And I was just like, no, want to give the counseling a try. And after a while, I just realized that, I'm being called back to loss prevention for a reason. I really need to follow that intuition. I really need to go back and see, follow where my passion is, because I didn't feel the passion for the counseling that I was involved in. So after a few more months, I called my company back and I said, is the position still available? They said, yes, it was. And I went right back.
I would think that your psychology degree really goes hand in hand with your loss prevention expertise. Am I right or wrong on that?
You're actually right. It's kind of funny that you mention it because my boss in my previous job used to always say that with my degree, it kind of put me above some of the way some of the other LPMs were thinking. And it's true. I'm able to really assess somebody very quickly, to know which way, if I was going to go into an interview, I knew almost immediately which way the interview was going to go and how I needed to do it. Because of that degree, that helped me to be able to analyze and kind of break down somebody's personality quite quickly.
One of the other things that jumped out to me when you were describing your time as a counselor was how hard it is to break what I'm actually going to call a habit for an adult versus kids. You can change their habits or help them manage their habits a little better because at some point it becomes almost too late. I personally have always been involved in some children's ministry, working with kids, and I'm a big believer in the development of a foundation at a young age to really help them become who they are at an older age. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
I agree with you. Children are, you hear that old term, children are like a sponge. And the information and the knowledge that they gain, whether it be good or bad, can be changed over time. And as you stated, and I actually love that you use the word habit. With adults, they form those habits. They've done it for 20 years, 30 years. And trying to break that 30-year habit versus a habit or, a behavior with a child that's only been happening for 5 years is very difficult to do. When we become adults, we kind of close off a part of ourselves that we don't close off as children. Children are more willing to try and adapt, whereas adults are not. They're very, very strict and they're very set in their ways, and it's very, very difficult once that habit has been formed to actually go back and break it.
You already mentioned to me that one of your role models, one of the most influential people in your life was your mother. And you have a very high respect for her and the way she lived her life and the way she demonstrated life for you. How was she instrumental in, again, setting your foundation, setting your habits to help you become the person you are today?
My mother was really hardworking from the time I can remember when I was a little girl. We lived on a farm, and at the same time, my mother was a firefighter and paramedic. So if you can imagine, this woman was not only raising a family and taking care of a farm, she was also on call 24/7 to go out and fight fires or go rescue someone who was in need. She found that balance between raising her two young kids and still pursuing what she had a passion for and what she loved. She On top of that, she was one of the first women firefighters in California, which was, again, here she was setting this precedence for women to say, you know what, you can do whatever you want and still raise a successful family. And it was amazing to me that she spent so much time making sure that we were okay, taking care of this farm, and pursuing her career that she so passionately loved.
So, Jessica, your mother has set up a great example for how to live life, how to manage both a career and family. Sounds like she was very good at what she did, inspirational to you. That set you up to also start a career, a professional life, as well as maintain the balance of raising some great children. Can you maybe walk me down the path of your road into the industry, but specifically your road as a woman in this industry that, quite honestly, is fairly dominated by men?
Yes. It just goes back to, you really need to follow what it is you really want out of life. So many times women are kind of told through family or society that they need to pick their family over their career. And that can't be further from the truth. A woman can have her family and her career and even go into a career that's, basically male dominated. Women have for years have started doing this, and they're showing that they can balance both. And women may, have that sense of, oh, well, I can't take care of my family, to the best of my ability if I'm doing a career. They have that sense of guilt. Women are famous for that. But what women need to remember is happy mom equals happy kids. Point blank. It can't get any simpler than that. And if a woman is missing out on the career of her life, not that it would ever, go over into her family, but there'll always be a little bit missing. And children are very intuitive. They always kind of know when they see that mom is happy and she's flourishing and she's showing them that, hey, I'm doing this career that I completely enjoy. I'm here for you. I'm going to your band practice. I'm going to your football practice. Kids pick up on that and they're like, wow, mom can do it. I can do it, because in every child's eyes, mom is superhero, right?
Absolutely.
So, yes. So when children see that mom is happy in all parts of their lives, they take that with them and they realize that, hey, I really can have it all.
That was so well said. I want to take that very short clip and put it out for every young lady to hear as they grow into that role of both a career woman and a mom. Just the whole aspect that you can be happy at both and you can do a good job at both. Very well said. Very well said.
Thank you.
Now, I got to tell you, I was 22. I remember this day very well. I went to my very first trade show in the security industry. I looked around and I said, wow, there are a lot of gray-headed men in this industry. This seems like a great place to start a career. Now, two things I noticed. As a young man, there was plenty of opportunity for me. Second thing I noticed, very few ladies at this trade show. You have blazed a trail. I want to understand, what were some of the challenges you faced as you have blazed a trail into this industry?
The challenge was basically being a woman. A woman in this field is looked at as, for lack of a better word, weak. Physically, mentally, that we can't accept this challenge, and that for many, many years, this industry, especially if you got into retail loss prevention, was seen as violent. Now, over the years, that has definitely changed because of new laws and regulations. However, people think that because a man approaches them, for instance, in a shoplifting instance, that the person's automatically going to be intimidated by that. What people don't realize is actually shoplifters, to continue to use my example, look at a woman and it completely throws them off. It kind of makes them stop and think, well, wait a minute. When you see a woman in a field like that or a police officer, I think there's a different level of respect when there is respect there, that they look at a woman and say, wow, if she's made it into this field, she must be pretty tough. And it just stops people in their track, and and they're a little bit more respected, and people just respect women on a different level, because even the most hardened criminal loves their mom almost, 99% of the time. And so that respect that their mother taught them way back when kind of comes back up to them. So they realize, that a woman, does have that strength. But in the beginning, 10 years ago, my colleagues were all men. And it really took a lot to prove to them that, hey, I can do the exact same job that you can. In some instances, I am actually going to do it better. And I proved that. But it took some time. And then once I proved myself, the level of respect that I got from my colleagues was amazing. And, each woman that steps into this industry, no matter what part of the industry they go into, they're going to go through that, because even now, I just recently went to a conference. It's the California Robbery Investigative Association, and there are hundreds of people there, and there was only a small part of them that were women. Now here it is, 2017, and here we are still. There's only a small portion of these people were women, and it kind of amazed me on one level that, wow, we have come so far, but yet we still have a lot of progress to make.
I see some benefits, natural benefits, that ladies bring to our industry. Instead of me talking about what I think they might be, I'm going to put it back on you. What are some of the natural strengths that a lady does bring to this industry? And why should more ladies be thinking about this industry as a career option based on some of the natural strengths they may in fact have?
Well, as most people know, women are very intuitive and they're observant. Um, I think it's just naturally built into us. And with an industry like this, you really need to have that natural ability to just be able to be very intuitive and to be able to observe. A lot of this in this industry is just pure observation and picking up on those little subtle cues that some men can't pick up on. Like, I've always made sure that I get to know as many employees as I can wherever I'm working. This is for a couple of reasons. One, it's to put them more at ease with me. When someone's at ease with you, they're going to talk. And most people are more willing to talk to a woman versus a man. Second, this kind of gives me an idea of, I will know if that there's something off about them. Whether, they're just having a bad day, or I don't know, they may be up to something no good. We have that natural ability to just really be able to zero in on that and use that to our advantage. And that's what a lot of this is. It's not just investigative work and pounding the pavement. It's really getting to know people, even complete strangers. I can look at someone and watch them for 5 minutes, and I've already learned their behaviors. I'm going to know when something's going to change and they're all of a sudden going to do something that they shouldn't be doing. Yes, men can pick up on that as well, but I think with a woman, we can pick up on those things even quicker, and us mothers who have children, we have that, the eyes in the back of the head. We can sense when something's not quite right, something's off, and we tend to listen to that a little bit more than men. Men will, usually just kind of brush that off of, oh, coincidence or something like that.
Do you have a story or a memory where maybe you ran into a man that was in a role similar to yours that gave you a little attitude, like, you can't do this, and how you proved him wrong and maybe ultimately had him come completely around to acknowledging how good you are at this particular role?
Yeah, I actually had a regional manager who made it pretty clear that he didn't like women in the industry. He felt that we couldn't catch as many shoplifters. We couldn't handle the stress of being in retail loss prevention. So when I was given a store I was completely by myself. It in the past had a man in the position for many, many years and didn't really produce high numbers. So when I came in, he was very hard on me. He was, constantly on me about this isn't done, this isn't done, this isn't done, this isn't done. And it probably took about 6 months. And he started noticing that my numbers for audits, for shoplifters, for internal theft were actually percentage wise higher than his highest performing stores, which were high risk stores. And those stores had anywhere from 4 to 8 people in them, and yet I was by myself. So he started realizing that I was able to prioritize and pull the numbers and get my store to where it needed to be and pull all those external thefts and internal thefts and go above and beyond. So his respect for me started changing all of a sudden when he started seeing that I was up against and running above high risk stores that were pulling, an immense amount of shoplifters and I was matching them percentage wise. He started being pretty impressed with that. And eventually we had a conversation, probably, a couple of years after I started working for him. And he sat me down. He says, in the beginning, I really didn't think you were going to be able to do this. And it was actually a very interesting conversation. He says, yeah, I have a lot more respect for women. And after that, I noticed that he kind of started hiring women a little bit more, or being a little bit more respectful of the women that were being brought into the districts.
This is a one-off case, but I'm curious. You have 10 years in this industry. Do you feel that the overall general impression of women in our industry has changed? Are you accepted from day one, or are there times where you still have to prove yourself?
I think it's a little bit of both. The position I'm in now, the company I'm with now, I am the only district loss prevention manager in the United States. Kind of crazy when you think of it on that level. However, I am not really getting a whole lot of pushback. My colleagues, the other LPMs, have been, for the most part, pretty accepting. I think there's one that's still trying to feel me out. Many of the managers I'm dealing with have been quite respectful. I had one that actually tested me for the first 6-8 months until just recently really tested me and pushed me. And then there was just kind of a breaking point that he was kind of like, wow. I could see his whole face change and his whole attitude towards me changed after something that happened within our district. So I think it's always, well, hopefully not always, but I think it's still going to be a struggle for women in a male-dominated industry. But I think we have come leaps and bounds, over the past 10 years to the point of they see a woman, they're like, okay, let's see if you can do it. It's not an automatic, oh, no way can she do this job. It's more of, okay, let's see what you can do.
So why should a young lady looking for a career, maybe it's someone fresh out of college, maybe it is a mom looking to get back in the workforce, could be anything. Why should a lady potentially look at the security industry as an option?
I think if you have that passion and that pull towards the industry, that's the first indication right there. But this is also a job this is not your 9 to 5, sit at a desk all day. And for some people, that's great. That's a perfect job for them. But for other people, if you're like me, I need to be up and about. I need to be walking. I need to be moving. I need to be talking to people. I need to be doing something different every single day. I do have a schedule every day, but that doesn't mean that something's not going to come up and I am on a plane to another state in a heartbeat. Um, so if if a young woman is looking for something that's going to keep her on her toes, is going to challenge her mind, is going to keep her active and guessing and investigating and just learning something new on a daily basis, I would highly recommend it.
All right. I do know that part of our audience is younger college kids. I guess not always kids, but younger college students who are in the criminal justice program. What are some things you would tell the ladies that are in this program that are looking to start a career in this industry? If you were to give them a piece or a couple pieces of advice, what would they be?
I would say if you can at all do some internships within different areas of the industry, I would highly recommend it. When I started way in the beginning, I can't tell you how many times I kind of changed my career because once I found out what it was that I was going to be doing, that I was like, you know what, that's really not for me. So if you can do ride-alongs with the police or see if you can do an internship, with loss prevention or whatever the case may be, I would highly recommend that because that way they can sit down and really focus on what area they want to go into, and that will help them decide which degree they really want to go for.
I say it over and over in every one of these shows. The opportunities within this single industry called security industry are limitless. It's not just law enforcement. It's not just loss prevention. It's not just being a part of an integration firm. There are so many areas of expertise within this industry. The world is yours, and I agree with the internship. Begin to understand what is out there. Even in the loss prevention space, if I look at your resume, you have been possibly doing a similar type job, but your roles and the types of companies you work for are uniquely different.
Yes, that's really true. And it's amazing how the title can be completely the same, but the job you're going to be doing with each company is going to be completely different. So yeah, there are endless possibilities within this industry, and that's why I say do your homework, be involved in it if at all possible before you actually pick that career.
So you have proven to be very successful. Can you share one of your habits? Now we're back to habits. Can we share one of your habits that has helped lead you to where you're at today?
Yes. One of the things that I've learned over the years, I've always learned that you're never going to know everything within your job, period. Each job is very unique, and like the position I'm in now, I am still learning new things every day. This industry is one of those areas that you're not going to learn it until it comes up. I can't even stress that enough. When I was in retail loss prevention, it would be years down the road and something unique would pop up and we'd all kind of go, huh, well, this is new. What are the rules for this one? And I'd have to go and research and ask and see what I needed to do in that type of situation. And, that's something I always learned. Even in life itself, you're never going to know it all. There's always going to be room to learn and explore and just gather more knowledge. And that's my biggest part of my success is I don't claim to ever know it all. I can give you an example of in my last position, my boss had been with the company for 35 years. 35 years. And a very unique situation came up and I went to him with it. And he's like, I have no clue what we do in that situation. Let me find out. This was a man with 35 years with that company. And the situation was so incredibly unique that he had never had a chance to learn it before. He didn't try to say that he knew it or anything like that. So it was a learning opportunity for me as well. Like, there we go. Yeah, I can be in this position for 20, 30, 40 years, and I'm still not going to know it all.
Do you find, like I do, that as I mature, I begin to realize the more I know ultimately leads me to realize how little I actually do know.
Yes. I completely agree with that. When I was younger, oh my goodness, I thought I knew everything about the world and life itself. But now that I'm older, I actually cherish and relish that I don't know it all, because knowledge is so incredibly powerful, and the more we can gain, the more we allow ourselves to learn, the more, what's the word I'm looking for? The more amazing life can be, and the more, successful you're going to be in your career. It's something I wish I knew when I was younger, when I was 20 years old, when I was 15 years old, heck, when I was 30 years old, that I'm not going to know it all, and there's always going to be room to learn more. And it's okay not to know it all. It's okay to say, you know what? Not quite sure what you're talking about. Give me an example of that, or give me the definition of that. I would never do that when I was 20 years old. Now, I have no problem stopping someone and say, you know what? I'm not quite sure what that means. Please tell me. And that's, I think that's the best thing for younger people to learn is you're not going to know it all, but it's okay, and just absorb all that knowledge.
In fairness to younger people, there are a lot of older people who still do not get that it's okay to not know something and just keep learning, keep learning, keep learning.
Yes, definitely. That's, I've run into many people that are my age or older that have that problem, and it's okay. It is okay that we don't know it all, no matter what our age is.
I feel this discussion leads me to state one thing I learned a few years ago. In our education systems, I believe they build us up to box in what intelligent actually means, or maybe even what successful means. And it was a few years ago for me that I realized that I was making judgments about others and their intellect based on a box I had built. And maybe I was making that based on the amount of schooling they had, the way they spoke, their a wide variety of factors. And it may have actually been what I'll call a spiritual type moment for me, where I realized that intelligence can't be boxed. And my example would be this, and it's not meant to disrespect anyone in this field. It's to really show my ignorance. But there might be some who would say a mechanic is not that intelligent based on the box they built. Maybe they don't have a great amount of schooling. But I got to tell you, I can't fix a car for my life. And there was a realization that every human being is intelligent in something. And we can all learn from each other if we just take the time to humble ourselves and listen to what other people have to offer us.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, definitely very well said. And I think it's just, the way we grow up in society kind of teaches us to build those little boxes. But when you take that box down and you have a conversation with somebody like a mechanic or even someone that's homeless at the moment, you will realize that each one of these people has their own intelligence and their own vast amount of knowledge. And we have to be able to open ourselves up to be able to accept that, yeah, even anybody, even a 5-year-old child can teach us something new and give us new knowledge.
Absolutely. Well, I thank you because you've been imparting knowledge on us, and we are nearing an end of our time. Is there a resource or a place or two you would tell us to go to continue learning? Because in my knowledge or my time spent getting to know you, I've learned that continual learning is important to you. With that,
yes, it is.
Where can we go? What's some resources in this industry that you would say, hey, look here to continue growing?
With this industry, I would definitely look into any conferences that may be that may be in their particular area. Like I mentioned earlier, I recently went to one and I could not believe how many people I was able to network and how much I learned by going to this 3-day conference. It was absolutely amazing. And if those aren't available to people, I would just say, get some audiobooks, get some real books, and in whatever you're interested in. Heck, nowadays we have this wonderful thing called the internet that we can research almost anything. Granted, make sure they're from trusted sources, but don't be afraid to reach out. If they're interested in anything to do with law enforcement, the local police departments always have, almost every single one of them has a monthly get-together with all the citizens in their areas. For instance, the one here is called First Tuesday, and they always have different topics. They always have different detectives, police officers there that you can interact with, talk with. I would say reach out to the local police departments and see what kind of classes or meetings that they have available as well.
I have to shamelessly plug this podcast as well. You mentioned that we may not all have the time. And the main reason we're doing this podcast, the main reason why Jessica has taken time out of her schedule to speak with you, is to, again, just put us in a position to help everybody learn, even when we're busy. In these 30 to 40-minute segments, that is the goal, is just find a way, whether it be audiobook, book, podcast, find a way to consume content. It's out there. It's all over the place. Just keep learning, keep learning, keep learning. I have to finish. I know that you love podcasts. Now, Security Pro Insights is your new favorite one. I appreciate that. Put those words in your mouth. But what are some other podcasts that you do enjoy? Because I do know you are a fan of podcasts.
Yes, and I'm so excited about this new podcast. I'm so glad you're doing this. There really isn't any other podcast out there that deal with the security industry. So this is extremely exciting to me, and yes, definitely one of my new favorites. I listen to all types of podcasts, but a couple of the ones I really enjoy are Truth and Justice, 48 Hours, which I think everyone's very familiar with, the TV version of 48 Hours, and Vanish Podcast. Those are ones that just focus on real stories, true stories that are out there. And not only do they keep me going, but they give me new insight, new knowledge, and new ways to learn, which we've been talking a lot about learning and knowledge. That's what I'm trying to gain. Anything that, may be unique in these podcasts, give me new insight.
Well, finally, you have given of your time today that I'm very appreciative of. You have talked about the importance of networking with others. You've talked about the importance of doing an internship and things like that. It all has to do with connection and network. Jessica, how can we connect with you if one of our listeners would like to do so?
That's a great question. And the best way to actually contact me or connect with me would be through LinkedIn.
So for everyone listening, Jessica Clarke is our guest. And the only thing I recommend is that you, in your connection request, mention Security Pro Insights so that Jessica is aware that it is not just a blind connection. If she sees that in the request, Jessica will happily connect with you and you will have a new friend for life, because Jessica is great, everyone. And I've really enjoyed the time in this conversation for the podcast. I've enjoyed our conversations before this podcast, and I look forward to all the future conversations we have. So again, thank you very much for your time today.
Oh, thank you. It's been such a pleasure having this discussion with you, and I look forward to further conversations.
That's a wrap of the show. As always, I would like to thank you for listening to another episode of Security Pro Insights. If you enjoyed today's show, please reach out to Jessica Clarke on LinkedIn. A link to her profile is in the show notes. As well, please visit iTunes. Make sure you subscribe to the show and please leave some feedback. Until next time, happy day.